All right, guys, so just like the other test reviews, I don't recommend you watch the video start to finish. I think you should be trying the problems on your own. And when you get stuck, find that part of the video and watch as little of the problem as you can. You want to do as much as possible without getting help from the video so that you can do as much as you can on the test without relying on my help. So we're going to go through each example, find what you need to, use your 3x5 card. That's going to help you out on the test with the things that you're having a hard time remembering. So 411, problem A, r equals n over x. We are trying to solve for x, and right now it is stuck on the bottom. So to get it off the bottom, I'm going to multiply both sides by x. So now I get xr equals n. And now it's really easy to get x alone because I just have to divide by r. So x is going to equal n divided by r. And yes, it matters if they are capital letters or not. You will get marked wrong if you use the lowercase, if it's an uppercase in the problem. So be really careful of that. Problem B. Again, x is on the bottom, but this time it's also being added to d. So I'm going to multiply both sides by x plus d. So both sides get multiplied by that x plus d parenthesis. So on the left, I end up with x plus d being multiplied by a plus b. And on the right, all that's left is a c. Well, I'm trying to get things away from x, so I want to divide the a plus b parenthesis away. So I'm going to divide both sides by a plus b, so I get x plus d is equal to c over a plus b. Now all I have to do is minus d, and that becomes my final answer for x. Okay, part C. X again is on the bottom. Notice a pattern here, but this time there's a plus p on the outside. And the first thing I want to do is minus that p away. So I end up with 3k minus p is equal to m over x. X is on the bottom. To get rid of that, to move it to the top, I multiply both sides by x. So I end up with x being multiplied by 3k minus p equals m. Now, some of you are going to want to distribute that x. Whoops, don't erase. You might want to distribute the x, but the problem with that is we are trying to get x alone. I don't want to combine it with more things. I want to get stuff moved away from x. So I'm going to divide by 3k minus p, divide by 3k minus p. So x equals m over 3k minus p would be your final answer. Okay, 412. You also need to be able to factor and get x by itself. So in this first example, h equals ax plus bx, I want to rewrite that as h equals, I'm going to factor the x out of the a and out of the b, so I end up with x multiplied by a plus b. It's kind of like distribution, right? But backwards. We're factoring it out. And the reason I want to do that is now I can divide by that a plus b, and x is going to be all by itself. So h over a plus b is equal to x. Same thing on b, except for right now my x's are on the opposite sides of the equal sign. So I need to get them together. So I'm going to minus fx from both sides. So I get ex minus fx equals g. Now I want to factor that x out, so I get e minus f equals g. And to get rid of that multiply by e minus f, I'm going to divide by e minus f. E minus f. So x equals g divided by e minus f. Okay, part C. X is on both sides. So my goal is to get the x's together and everything else away. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides, not 17, add 7. And then I want to, we'll do this one step at a time. So I get 2x equals ax plus b minus cx plus 7. Now I want to move all the other x's to the left. So I'm going to minus ax and I'm going to add cx to both sides. I'm going to add cx minus ax. So I end up with 2x plus cx minus ax equals b plus 7. Because now I can factor that x out of everything. 2 plus c minus a equals b plus 7. And then divide by that great big parenthesis, right? Divide by 2 plus c minus a. So my answer, x equals b plus 7 on top, divided by 2 plus c minus a on the bottom. Now, if you had written that the c, the a, and the 2 in a different order, no big deal. You'd still have the right answer. You might have 2 minus a plus c, or negative a plus c plus 2. Still the same answer, even if they're in a little bit of a different order, okay? All right, let's change color for this next row. We are still trying to get x by itself. So x to the 5th equals p. To get rid of a exponent, I have to take the 5th root. So x equals the 5th root of p, and I'm done. On part B, I want to do the same thing to get rid of, I want to use the same idea to get rid of that cube root, but the first thing I have to do is minus y. So I get the cube root of x equals w minus y. Now, to get rid of the cube root, I cube everything. So x equals w minus y cubed. That doesn't mean you add a cube to the w and the y. You have to take the entire side and cube it. Okay? Part C, I've got a root x plus a stuck in parentheses with a cube on it equals c. So the first thing I need to do is get rid of the parentheses. So I'm going to take the cube root of both sides. So I end up with the square root of x plus a equals the cube root of c. Now I'm going to minus a from both sides. So the cube root, or square root of x equals the cube root of c minus a. And the minus a is not under the root, it's on the outside. And then the opposite of square rooting is to square. So x equals the cube root of c minus a squared would be my final answer. Okay, 421, now we're changing things a little bit. Now we are solving equations. We're not just getting an x by itself because we have an x and a y that we are trying to solve. So on this first example, these first three, we're going to actually use substitution. So I'm going to add y to both sides, and that's going to change this to become x equals 10 plus y. Because I want to take that 10 plus y and I want to plug it into my x value right there. So I want it to be 10y, not 10y, 10 plus y, plus another y to equal 12. So that means 10 plus 2y equals 12. So when I do my railroad tracks and minus 10 from both sides, that's not a minus, that's a divide. Minus 10 from both sides, I get 2y equals 2. And then when I divide by 2, y is equal to 1. Once I know my y value, I can take that and I can plug it in where y is at. So x plus 1 is equal to 12. So x equals 11. So I have an x and a y, so my answer is 11 comma 1. That would be my final solution. Okay, part B is a little bit easier because it's already set up as y equals. So I'm going to take this x plus 9 and I'm going to plug it in right there. So I get x plus, let me change colors here so we don't mix these two problems together. X plus 9 equals negative x minus 3. So I want my x's together, so I'm going to add x, and I'm going to both sides. So add x, so 2x's plus 9 equals negative 3. Now I want a minus 9, so 2x equals negative 12. Divide by 2, and x equals negative 6. Now that I know what x is, I can plug it in right there to get my y value. Y equals negative 6 plus 9, so y equals positive 3. So my answer is negative 6 comma 3. Okay, part C, I've got a y equals, so I'm going to plug it in right there for my y. So 2x plus, instead of a y, I'm going to put 6x plus 3 equals 7. So I combine like terms, everything's being added. So 8x plus 3 equals 7. Minus 3, 8x equals 4. So that means x equals 1/2. And now that I know what x is, I can plug it in where my x value is at. So y equals 6 times 1/2 plus 3. So y equals 3 plus 3, so y equals 6. So I'm going to put 1/2 comma 6 as my final answer. Okay, the second set of solving questions wants us to use elimination. So it wants us to make the top and the bottom either the x's or the y's match. And on this one, I can pick whatever I want to match, I can make match. I want to make the x's match because they look like they would be the easiest to work with. So I want them both to become, I want my x's to become 2x. So that means my second problem, my first problem, it's already 2x, right? My second problem, though, it's 1x. So I need to multiply everything in the second problem by 2. So I'm going to end up with 2x plus 8y equals 40. That's going to be my new second problem, okay? And I'm going to shift that down just a little bit because I want my first problem still. 2x plus 3y equals 5. So those are my new equations. My x's are the same. So I'm going to subtract everything on top by everything on the bottom. So 2x's minus 2x's becomes 0. All right. 3y minus 8y's becomes negative 5y. And then 5 minus 40 becomes what? Negative 35. So now I just have negative 5y equals negative 35. So that means y equals positive 7. And since I know what y is, I can plug it in. And it doesn't matter where I plug it in. I can plug it into whatever I want. Let's go ahead and plug it into our first equation. So 2x plus 3 times 7 equals 5. So 2x plus 21 equals 5. So 2x equals negative 16. So x equals negative 8. So my answer becomes negative 8 comma 7. All right, part B. 8x minus y equals negative 11 and 2x plus 7y equals negative 68. Let's go ahead and let's make the x's match. And they can both, I want my x's to become 8x. Because they can. The first one's already 8x. So I'm going to take everything in the second one and I'm going to multiply it by 4. So that becomes 8x plus 28y equals, negative 68 times 4 is going to be negative 280, negative 272. I think. Who picked that number? Geez. And then my first equation stays the same. 8x minus y equals negative 11. So my x's match. So let's go ahead and minus everything. 8x minus 8x is 0. Negative y minus 28y's is going to be negative 29y. And then I've got negative 11 minus negative 272. That's actually negative 11 plus 272. So that's going to be what? 261. So 29y equals 261. When I divide by negative 29, I get y equals negative 9. Now that I know what y is, let's plug it into this first equation. We're going to plug it into this equation right here. All right, so 8x minus a negative 9 equals negative 11. So 8x plus 9 equals negative 11. So 8x equals negative 20. So x equals negative 20 over 8, which simplifies to be what? Negative 5 over 2, negative 5 halves. So my answer becomes negative 5 halves, comma, negative 9. Assuming I didn't make any algebra mistakes along the way. Okay, part C. Let's switch colors again. 25x plus 12y and 10x minus 18y. We've got to make the x's match. So let's make my x's become 50x. So everything on top gets multiplied by 2. Everything on the bottom gets multiplied by 5. So 50x plus 24y equals 150. And then 50x minus 90y equals 245, I think. Okay, our x's match, so let's take everything on top minus everything on the bottom. 50 minus 50 is 0. And then I'm going to take 24y minus negative 90y. So that's 24 plus 90. So that's 114 y's. And then 150 minus 245 is going to be 95. Negative 95. Yeah? Negative 95 and 114. Geez, who came up with these numbers? Are those even going to clean up at all? I'm just double checking our numbers really quick, making sure we did not make any mistakes along the way. No, we didn't. Those are just really nasty numbers. Okay, so y is going to equal negative 95 over 114. And you can take that number and you can plug it back in up here. And we're not going to take the time to do that because that's a lot of algebra you can do. So basically, I'm going to take 25x's plus 12 times negative 95 over 114, and that's going to equal 75. And then you multiply the 12 through, and then you're going to move it to the other side, divide by 25, and you're going to get another ugly fraction. Again, ugly fractions are okay. We don't like them, but fractions are fractions. We are going to get them as answers. It's okay that we get them. We just don't always like the ones that we get, okay? All right, so 431. This is kind of the bulk of the test. This is the stuff that you need to understand the best. It's the new stuff this year. It's stuff that you haven't already reviewed and seen in the past. So we are going to follow the same pattern. I'm going to take this x plus 2, and I'm going to plug it in for that y value. So I get x plus 2 equals x squared plus 5x plus 2. And then I'm going to move everything to the same side. I'm going to minus x, and I'm going to minus 2. So I end up with 0 equals x squared plus 4x plus 0. Okay. So that means that 0 equals x squared plus 4x. And you have a couple of options right here. You have learned different ways to solve this. You could do the quadratic formula. You could say a equals 1, b equals 4, and c equals 0. Because there's no constant right here, right? We just have a 0. You could do the big X, and you could put 0 on top and 4 on the bottom, which is kind of cool because you just end up with 0 and 4. Or you can factor out an x and end up with x plus 4. And now you have two things that multiply to be 0. One of them has to be 0. So x could be 0, or x plus 4 could be 0, which means x equals -4. So I have two x values, which are the same things you would have gotten with the big X, same things you would have gotten with the quadratic formula. But now that you know what the x's are, you can plug those in to your original y equals x plus 2. So when I plug in a 0, I get 0 plus 2, so I get y equals 2. When I plug in a -4, -4 plus 2 is -2. So my answer becomes 0, 2, and -4, -2. Those become my two answers. All right, part B. We'll go ahead and leave part A where it is for now. Part B, same idea. I'm going to take 4x minus 7, and I'm going to plug it in right there. So I get 4x minus 7 equals 2x squared minus x plus 1. And then I'm going to minus 4x from right here, and I'm going to add 7 to that 1. So I get 0 equals 2x squared minus 5x plus 8. So let's do the quadratic formula this time. A equals 2, B equals -5, C equals 8. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of -5 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 8, all divided by 2 times a, which is 2. So when I clean up these pieces right here, I end up with what? X equals 5 plus or minus the square root of something over 4. So -5 squared is 25. But I'm going to minus 64. So I'm going to end up with -39 under my square root, which becomes a problem. We can't have the square root of a negative. So that means I have no real solutions to this problem. So your answer for that one would be no real solutions. Remember, we're not interested in non-real solutions. We only want the real ones for this assignment. So we're done with that one. Hopefully you get lots of those on the test, right? Don't count on it, but there might be one or two. So part C, y equals, ooh, this one's really messy. I don't even know if you've seen very many that look like this. Y equals 5x minus 7 over x. I'm going to plug that in for y. So I get 2x's plus 5x minus 7 divided by x equals 18. Now I have an issue. I have an x on the bottom. I need to get rid of that. And the way that I do that is I multiply both sides by x. I times everything over here by x, everything over here by x. So I end up with 2x squared plus this x and this x cancel. So I end up with 5x minus 7 equals 18x. So now when I railroad track and minus 18x, I end up with 2x squared minus 13x minus 7. Okay, so let's, what do we want to do? Quadratic formula or big X? Let's big X this one. Okay, I've got to take the 2 and times it by -7. That's -14. I've got -13 on the bottom. So I need two numbers that multiply to 14 and add up to -13. So that's going to be -14 and a positive 1. But I cheated at the beginning right here. I multiplied by 2. So I have to take those two answers and divide them by 2. So this one becomes -7. This one is 1/2. Now, if you remember your shortcut, that means that x is equal to a positive 7 and x is equal to a negative 1/2. So to figure out my y value, I just have to plug those back into my original equation. So I get 2 times 7 plus y equals 18. So 14 plus y equals 18. So that means that y equals 4. So x equals 7, y equals 4. Cool. Now I plug in negative half. 2 times a negative 1/2 plus y equals 18. So negative 1 plus y equals 18. So that means that y equals 19. So when x is negative 1/2, y is 19. So my answer becomes 7, 4 and negative 1/2, 19. Those would be my two answers. Okay, last couple problems here. Negative 3x squared plus y squared equals 13, and y equals negative x minus 7. Let's take this y value and plug it in right there. So I get negative 3x squared plus negative x minus 7 squared equals 13. Now we've got to be careful of this part right here because I have negative 3x squared, and remember that means negative x minus 7 times negative x minus 7. So negative 3x squared, I've got to do negative x times negative x. Well, that's a positive x squared. Negative x times negative 7 is a positive 7x. Negative 7 times negative x is another positive 7x, and negative 7 times negative 7 is a positive 49. All of that equals 13. So let's combine like terms. Those go together, and I get negative 2x squared. My 7x's go together and become 14x plus 49 equals 13. Now, a lot of you are going to want to move the 13 over. The problem is I have a negative 2x squared. I don't like having a negative 2x squared. So we're going to actually add 2x squared to both sides. And we are going to minus 14x from both sides. And we are going to minus 49 from both sides. So I end up with 0 equals 2x squared minus 14x and minus 36. Okay. We have options. We can big X or we can use the quadratic formula. I'm going to try my big X first. And I get negative 72 on top and negative 14 on the bottom. So 72 is 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, 4 and 18, which is going to give me my negative 14. But I want it to be a negative 18 and a positive 4, okay? But I got the 72 by doing 2 times negative 36. So I've got to divide by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. This becomes 2. This one becomes negative 9. Oh, I guess I could have factored a 2 out of everything at the beginning, huh? No worries. That means that my x is equal to negative 2, and my other x is equal to positive 9. Okay, let's plug those in. And I'm going to plug them into which one? Probably this one right here. I'm going to plug them into that one. So negative 2 minus 7 equals y, right? And that becomes 2 minus 7 equals y. So y is equal to negative 5. So those two go together. And then x equals 9. So negative 9 minus 7 equals negative 16. So those two are going to go together. So my answer is negative 2, negative 5, and 9, negative 16. So that's part A. So that's only one of those 3. And you're going to probably have a couple of those on the test. So you've got to be really comfortable with this process because you are going to be doing it over and over again. Okay, part B. Y equals 2x plus 7 So let's take that y and plug it in right there. So 2x plus 7 squared plus 5x equals negative 16. So that means 2x plus 7 times 2x plus 7 plus 5x equals negative 16. So 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 7 is 14x. 7 times 2x is 14x. 7 times 7 is 49. Plus 5x equals negative 16. Holy smokes. All these x's go together. So 4x squared, that's 28 plus 5 more, so 33x plus 49 equals negative 16. And it almost is ready, except for I have to add 16 to both sides. So I end up with 4x squared plus 33x. 49 plus 16 is 65, and that's going to multiply to be 0. Or all of that's going to add up to be 0. Okay? So again, we have some options here. You can do quadratic formula, or you can do the quadratic formula, or you can do big X. We haven't really done quadratic very much, so let's do this one that way. Let's let A equal 4, B equal 33, and C equals 65. I'm going to need a calculator here in a minute, but X equals negative 33 plus or minus the square root of 33 squared minus 4 times 65, holy smokes, all divided by 2 times 4. So I need to clean up a few parts. This needs to get cleaned up, this needs to get cleaned up, this needs to get cleaned up. So when I plug that in my calculator, which I did not do ahead of time. So the first one is easy, right? That's just negative 33, plus or minus square root. 33 squared minus 4 times 65 becomes 49. Well, that was nice. All divided by 2 times 4 is 8. Well, that worked out well because the square root of 49 is 7. So X equals negative 33 plus or minus 7 divided by 8. Okay, guys. From here, so many of you are getting stuck at this point, and this point is really easy. I have negative 33 plus or minus 7 divided by 8. So let's do the plus first. Negative 33 plus 7 is what? Negative 26. So I get X equals negative 26 divided by 8, which is not going to be a very nice number. What is that? Like negative, what goes into both of those? 2 goes into both of those, so negative 13 fourths. All right. Now do negative 33 minus 7. That's negative 40 divided by 8, and that just gives me negative 5. So I have 2 X values, this one and this one. Now I need to plug those in to get my Y values. All right, so let's plug in the negative 13 fourths first. So I get 2 times negative 13 fourths plus 7. So that's what? Negative 26. Again, I didn't do this one ahead of time, so we'll do negative 13 fourths. And we don't care that they're ugly fractions because our calculator is going to do most of the work for us. And we're going to end up with 1/2. Cool. So when X equals negative 13 fourths, Y equals 1/2. That's a pretty nice number right there. Now we've got to plug in the negative 5. So 2 times negative 5 plus 7 becomes negative 10 plus 7, which becomes negative 3. So my other answer is negative 5 comma negative 3. So those two right there are going to be my answers. And make sure you write them as parentheses because they are points that cross on the graph, right? So we need to make sure that we treat them as such. Okay, last example. And then you get to go on and do some things on your own. So we're going to do part C right here. Nothing is x equals. So let's minus 4y from both sides. So this becomes x equals 3 minus 4y. And I'm going to plug that in up here for my x. So I end up with 3 minus 4y multiplied by y plus 6 equals 2 times 3 minus 4y. So 3y minus 4y squared plus 6 equals 6 minus 8y. Let's add 4y squared minus 3y and minus 6 from both sides. So minus 6 minus 3y and add 4y squared. So I end up with 0 equals 4y squared minus 11y plus 0. If I did my math correct. Okay. I'm going to rewrite this somewhere. Let's rewrite it right here. 4y squared minus 11y equals 0. So if I factor out a y, I end up with 4y minus 11 equals 0. So that means y is going to equal 0, or 4y minus 11 is going to equal 0. So that means that 4y equals 11, which means that y equals 11/4. So I know two of my y's, or I know my two y's. Now I'm going to plug them into this equation right here. So x plus 4 times 0 equals 3. That means that x equals 3. Cool. X plus 4 times 11/4 equals 3 means x plus 11 equals 3, which means x equals -8. So there's my two answers. When x is 3, y was 0. And when x was -8, y was 11/4.